The storm had been polite enough to wait until closing time before it tore the front porch rail clean off Nora's bakery. She found it at 8:15, still holding half its screws, lying in the wet flower bed like it had simply given up. The rain had moved on. The air left behind was thick and sweet, the kind of summer evening humidity that settled into your hair and your patience simultaneously. Nora stood in her flour-dusted apron, hands on her hips, staring at the damage with the particular expression she reserved for things that were going to cost her a Tuesday. She had her phone out to search for lumberyard hours when Eli's truck rolled to a stop at the curb. He was a carpenter who worked the blocks around the town square, unhurried, always with sawdust on his forearms and a water bottle he refilled at every tap he passed. She knew him the way you knew everyone in Millhaven, by habit and proximity, not by anything as deliberate as choice. He had repaired the Widow Calder's fence in April. He had rebuilt the gazebo steps in June. He did not seem to need much conversation to feel comfortable in a place. He got out of the truck, looked at the railing in the flower bed, and looked at Nora.
That happened tonight?
No, I arranged it there for visual interest,
Nora said. Eli crouched beside the railing and turned it over with one hand, checking the joint. He did not smile at the joke, but something in his face acknowledged it, which was almost better.
I've got pine in the truck that'll match close enough. Takes maybe an hour.
I wasn't asking for help.
I know.
He stood, unhurried.
I'm offering.
Nora looked at the railing, at the wet flower bed, at the dark gap where the porch edge used to be defined and safe. She calculated the time it would take her to source the wood herself, measure, cut, set the posts. She was good at measuring. She was good at most practical things. She had made herself good at them on purpose after her mother left and her father's hands began to shake, back when competence had been the only form of tenderness she could afford.
1 hour,
she said. He worked the way she imagined water worked, around obstacles, consistent, not making a point of itself. He pulled a tape measure, noted something on the back of his hand, cut 2 lengths of pine in the truck bed with a precision that was quiet and a little beautiful to watch. Nora told herself she was watching to confirm he wasn't going to ruin her porch further. She was lying to herself, but she was good at that too. She brought out 2 glasses of water because the air still held all the storm's warmth, and it would have been rude not to. She set his on the porch rail post that was still standing. He said thank you without looking up. She sat on the top step and watched him work because there was nowhere else obvious to be, and she wasn't going back inside to stare at her clean kitchen.
You always stop when you see damage?
When I can fix it.
He pressed a nail square and drove it in 2 strokes.
Not a complicated system.
Sounds like a system that keeps you busy in a town this size.
Keeps me here.
She let that sit. A dog barked somewhere past the square. From 3 blocks south, faint and warm through the wet night air, she could hear the sound crew doing a check for the summer street dance, a bass note, a chord, someone counting into a mic.
You're not from here originally,
she said. It wasn't quite a question.
Macon. Came up 2 years ago for a single job. Kept finding more.
Or kept looking for more.
He glanced at her then, not offended, just considering.
Maybe both.
Nora turned her water glass in her hands. She had a habit of doing that, holding things, testing their weight, as if she could tell by feel whether something was going to last. The glass was cold. Her palms were warm. Somewhere between those 2 temperatures, she was aware of Eli, his steadiness, the specific economy of his movements, the way he had not once tried to make her feel like she needed him here. It was, she thought, a very effective strategy. Whether or not it was intentional, she couldn't say. The railing went up solid. He tested it with both hands, applied real weight, and it did not move.
You'll want to primer that tomorrow before the sun hits it, or it'll dry out fast.
I know how wood works.
I know you do.
Another beat of almost silence. Then,
Thank you.
The words came out with less armor than she intended. He collected his tools without hurrying. She watched him load the truck, wipe down the saw, close the tailgate with a particular soft click that suggested he did everything with a small degree of care she found unexpectedly difficult to dismiss. He came back to the porch and picked up his water glass and finished it, standing at the foot of the steps, and Nora realized she had been hoping he would not leave yet, and that the realization sat in her chest like the warm last note of a song she thought she had forgotten.
How long have you had this place?
6 years. Took over from the Hendersons. Before that, I worked every shift they'd give me from age 16.
So this porch is half your history.
Don't get sentimental about lumber.
Too late.
He said, which was the first real warmth he had shown all evening, and it changed the light between them in some irreversible way. The street dance music rose properly now, guitar, accordion, the crowd's collective low hum of pleasure at a summer night that had decided to redeem itself after all the rain. The yellow porch light above them threw a small circle of warmth across the new railing and the wet steps and Eli's face, and Nora understood that she was being offered something here, something patient and unhurried and constructed carefully, and that the only thing in the way was herself.
You said you kept finding reasons to stay in Millhaven,
she said.
Is that still true? The reason?
He looked at her, directly, without deflection, the way he drove a nail, once and square.
I haven't found a reason to leave yet.
He said it looking at her, not past her, not at the porch, not at the nice summer sky above the town square, at her. Nora set down her glass on the repaired railing, on the new wood that smelled like pine resin and 2 hours of uncomplicated patience, and she felt something in her chest decide something, the way a door decides when a hand finally presses the handle properly. Not dramatically, just finally.
The dance is free,
she said.
If you wanted to stay a little longer.
He offered his hand. She had been collecting jokes all evening, a whole small arsenal of deflections she hadn't quite deployed. She felt them now, lined up, ready, reliable, and she chose none of them. She took his hand. His palm was warm and work-roughened, and she felt the small calluses at the base of his fingers and thought, this is what it feels like when someone builds things with care for long enough that it changes his hands. They walked down the wet porch steps into the yellow-lit street, the music lifting through the summer air, and at the edge of the square he stopped and turned to her with the kind of question in his face that did not require a voice. She kissed him first. It was not accidental. Nothing about Nora was accidental, and it was not long, just a soft, deliberate press of her mouth to his under the street lamp, while the accordion climbed one sweet note higher. His free hand came to her jaw, careful, and she thought, patient, even now. She pulled back just enough to breathe.
The porch looks good,
she said.
It does,
he said. The music moved into its first full song. Around them, the town filled its square with people who had been waiting all week for a reason to be together. Nora kept her hand in Eli's and did not reach for a single joke to put between her heart and the evening. The porch light stayed on behind them, steady and yellow, promising nothing except that the door was still there when they were ready to come home.